So, if those of you that don't know me, my name is Beth Guide. I'm with a company called Vertical Web. I'm gonna have to stay seated so that I can work the computer from where I am because we're gonna be pretty computer based. Okay, so I decided that I wanted to talk about AI because I found some really interesting things that can be utilized. Now, I talk about everything from a search engine perspective. So everybody that knows me knows that really my goal is to take a small business and how do I get them to number one on a search engine? So that's always where we start everything from. And I say a search engine, but if you guys have done what I told you to do for all these years, I actually am seeing that we are my people, the people that I've worked with are actually the sources for AI. Okay, and that told me something because what it told me is my preaching of saying that we needed original content, we needed to be an expert, that we needed to, every one of you started a business because you're an expert in your space or that you work for somebody that's an expert in your space. And that I think that some of the older generation, the plus 45 crowd, we all were kind of trained to be like humble about things and not to be braggadocious. And unfortunately, or unfortunately, I'm not sure which, we live in a world where we need to tell people, hey, I'm the expert. You need to listen to what I'm saying. And you need to walk with that stature, whether you're a one-person business or a 100-person business, you need to walk with the stature that you're an expert. Okay. And when we see, or what we see with our business websites, is that those that took me up on that challenge and put good, solid content up on the internet, put out content that was valuable, those people are not only being rewarded with good positioning in places like Google, but they're also in places like ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity. I have numerous examples. I have an accountant here in Houston that he is getting more leads from Perplexity than he is from Google at this point. So we need to understand what that is and how we're going to turn that and make that into, we can utilize this. All right. So the first thing I have to say is there's a trick in this system in the sense that it's really easy to write a page with AI or to produce a page with AI, but that doesn't mean that that page is correct. And it doesn't mean that it adds value to the internet. So let's understand, first of all, how AI gets its information. It goes out to the internet and it scrapes people's websites and puts it in and then aggregates it. Many years ago, I wish my friend Jim was here today because he would appreciate this. It used to be that you could go, and I'll tell you a very old-fashioned way it was done. You could go to the library when people still went to the library, and you could take out a bunch of books, and let's say we wanted to take out a bunch of books on the history of Rome. And I could take and scan those pages, scan to text, put those books into my Word document, and there was software that would take those books and combine them. All right. And we would call it content spinning. So I could take 10 separate pages, 10 separate articles on something, put it together and get one unique page of content. And for the longest time, a lot of people did that. But the question that I'm going to ask for you guys, and I'm going to say to you guys is, what have you done to make the world a better place if all you're doing is regurgitating something somebody else said? Okay. And I think that's the premise here that I want, first of all, you guys need to understand is that if all you're doing is spouting back something that somebody else has said, you're not adding to the conversation. You're just agreeing with somebody else. And Google, ChatGPT, any of these entities don't want agreeers. They want leaders. They want people that are going to have original thought. So in everything that you do and everything that you say, as we sit down and we walk through this exercise, we need to make sure that we're walking through that with original thought, or our own spin, our own process. And I guarantee you, if I put something on the screen, no matter what I put up, oranges, the Astros, the New York Yankees, everybody in this room would have an opinion on them. Okay. And your opinion is unique to you. That is part of your essence and your thought process and how you process and view the world. And that's what I'm talking about when I say unique. So when it comes to my business, I know people will say, no, you can spin whatever you want to do and do whatever you want to do, and it'll be okay. And maybe it will, but I am here to help people get stuff done for the long term. I don't want you to go put something up and in 2 weeks it's obsolete and then we're on to the next great thing that we're chasing down the road. I'm looking at long-term sustainable solutions for businesses, because one thing a small business owner knows is that you don't have time to keep redoing the same problem. Okay, I'd like to, kind of set it and let's get to the next piece of this. Okay, so does everybody understand where I'm coming from on the uniqueness and the freshness of this and why we need to approach it this way? So the next thing that becomes, as we're talking through the basis of this, all right, the next thing is any topic in question that you're sent to in your email box, okay? Those are things that you can take and massage into something and put them on your website. And you're going to want to do it in an SEO way, and we'll talk about what that looks like today. But I know when I sit down and I put something together, I'm putting it together from my worldview, from my expertise, how I think it should be processed, what I think somebody should do. I am not bashful to tell anybody what I think they should do, just so we all know. All right. So I have a whole website that tells people what they should do. Well, I've never been shy, have I? All right. So, but with that said, I mean, it took me, if you knew me, 20 years ago when I first started all of this, it took me a long time for me to be able to get out of my own way and say, you know what, I really do know this, and I am going to tell you what I think, and you don't have to listen to me because opinion is an opinion. I mean, it's that and I'd say 50 cents, but it's more like $3.50 will get you a cup of coffee. So that's kind of how we look at that. So you guys, when somebody asks you a question, you answer it, it's unique to you. Okay. And that's where we have to start. So the next thing, as I'm walking through this, we've all talked about how content is the backbone of every website. Google does not want, and I'm going to use Google, but as I say that, understand that Google, Bing, ChatGPT, any of these things that we can say, I'm kind of blanking them under the Google umbrella. I'm not isolating and fixating on Google anymore. The world is expanding past that. Most people still go to Google to get their base answer, but even Google's giving AI answers now for things. So my opinion is, what are we going to do to get into those AI answer areas? How do we put our business in a spot where we're visible? Okay. And the backbone of all of it is content. So first of all, I'm going to start and say what I don't want, what doesn't count. It's not what I don't want. In this case, it's what doesn't count. A services page that says I offer accounting, bookkeeping, and fractional CFO. That doesn't fly. Okay. Because all you're doing is putting up a brochure. All right. Google's not in a brochure business. Google's trying to give the best answer. Now, you guys are intriguing me because you say you do logistics, but you don't actually do scheduling and trucking. So you're doing something different within the logistics industry, correct? And my friend Bob here, he can tell anybody how to write a resume, and that's his way of doing it. How I would do it, people come to him to get it corrected because our way is not right. So you have a wealth of knowledge in your many years on how to write a resume that's going to get you a job. You agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the kind of things that we need to be putting forth and putting out there. Okay. So we understand where we're starting. We understand where we're at. Now we're going to talk about a few different types of tools. We've all heard about ChatGPT, and I'm going to bring that ChatGPT window up. Okay, that's the first one. The second one I'm going to bring up is a program called Claude AI.
Yeah, but I'm sure
Yeah, absolutely. Monica, can you get these lights shut down? Thank you. That's a really good point. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think we knew that from last time and I think I forgot. Okay. All right, so we have Chat GPT, we have Claude, and I'm now gonna give you another one that I don't think anybody knows about. Because I just found it myself not too long ago. But it's actually the window into Google's brain. They put up an AI system that goes into their system and utilizes their algorithms, their systems. So my opinion is, and I don't know if this is true or not yet, we'll find out because I'm utilizing it more and more, is that if I utilize this system to correct my content after I formulate it, it's going to tell me what Google thinks about it, and then it's going to help me massage it into something that they think is a good article. And when I see the feedback on the articles that we've put in, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or, oh yeah, I don't know why I didn't think about that. So I want to kind of step through a process on this. What I will say is I'm not talking solely about how to write a business letter, because a business letter or a sales letter, if you told me, say, write a sales letter, I'd like it to be friendly. I want it to be upbeat. I want it to be encouraging, and I want it to use the services on my website to write this sales letter. It will do a fine job. You'll have to minimally make a change to it. The only thing I haven't been able to do yet is train it to have a New Jersey attitude. If I could do that, I would win the day, but I can't quite get it to do it yet for me. That's not a prompt type, unfortunately. But I can say friendly, I can say happy, I can, I can give it some tonality, seriousness so I'm not worried about how I write a business letter, because at the end of the day, how I write that business letter is not going to alter. One thing I would like you to try, and you specifically, is I want you to go at some point at home and say, write me a resume based on this criteria and see what it outputs, and then see what you would fix. And then I want us to put a page on your website that talks about using AI to write a resume. Yeah, absolutely. This is an open forum, so yes, you can ask a question.
Okay, 4 or 5 years ago, I started to use Google AI. If you call it that. I was told by many people that it's prejudicial in certain instances. So the analogs or the searching and it
So
goes.
this didn't exist 5 years ago. So anything we've said years ago, what I want to do is I want to throw that out. I'm really asking you to do it with today's, like literally today's technology.
Truly is, these 3 different AI sites, are they leaning towards stuff that might harm some of our companies?
Yes, but we're gonna take it, like I could say, like people are saying for SEO companies, well, we can do it with AI. You can't do SEO with AI. You can pretend to do SEO with AI, but you cannot really do SEO with AI. All right. It depends on what you're, and I just did a whole thing that says, how does your webmaster know how to build a website? It's like 5,000 words. But you know what? That's a whole nother topic that I probably need to address, because that's a really good one. And kind of step through, I live, eat, and breathe how Google reacts to something. Okay. So you saying, hey, what keywords do I put in, doesn't necessarily make you know how to do my job. So yes, you're right. It would help. It would hurt your businesses. There are some of you that it would hurt, especially if you're a writing and creative end of it. On the other side of the coin, this is where I'm trying to capture why don't I want to do this? Because you cannot remove the human element from a business. I think the second you do that, you take away, why am I going to do business with this particular person? I mean, at the end of the day, we do business with people who we like. And if everybody walks around like it's the Terminator and is all doing stuff like that, what have we accomplished? Good, you guys all do SEO with AI. I'm gonna keep using my human brain on it and I'll outdo you every single time. Okay, so this is where, and we need to have that kind of approach, like how to use it and how to refine it. All right, so in your case, I'm saying go write a resume, go take just an average college person, put in his requirements, have it spit out a resume and see what you think about it. And then let's grade it and come up with that exercise for the website as to why I don't want to turn in a resume written with AI. I might start with it, but it does not mean that that is what I should turn into somebody. Okay. And that's kind of where I'm starting with our articles. So we all know that we need articles for websites. We all know that we need, that they're the cornerstone in the building block, okay? The one thing that we've talked about from a technical SEO standpoint, okay, is things like our businesses and how are they related, okay? So the first thing I would say, if I was sitting down and I was a business owner, I would say, let's say we're a bookkeeping and an accounting firm, okay? I would come down to ChatGPT and I would say, now, I want everybody to understand this too, because it's a very important element of this. When you're chatting, the reason this is chat is because he asked me a question, I answered that. That's what this is doing. So I can't say, what is the analysis for stock outlooks for 2025? And then say, how probable is the fact that the Astros traded Alex Bregman to the fact that they won't go to the World Series this year? Okay, you can't switch from those two in the same window. You have to actually close the window and start a new window because these are chats. So if you are random in your thoughts, it can't help you formulate and massage into what you want to do. So understand this is an exercise of a lot of opening and closing of windows because you want to stay on point with the topic. Just like he asked a question, I answered him. He asked another question, I answered him. That's the way this works. And that's why these are chat and AI bots. They're not, question machines like Google that I can just go, I can say, what is the price of a gimbal? And then I can say, oh, wait, I need a new pair of Hokas. What's the new color? I can do that with Google. I can't do that with these. Okay. These are research tools. Theoretically, that's what they really should be used as. They're not panaceas for things that we're not good at. They should make us better at what we're not good at, but it doesn't remove us from the equation. Okay, so I'm using a lot of words to explain this to you, mostly because I feel like small business in total are utilizing this and saying, oh, wait, I've come up with a quick solution to a problem. I need to write a blog post on how to write a resume. Here, let me go put it in ChatGPT and I can go put that up. I had past tense. I had a restaurant customer and we got them all fixed up and they said, okay, we're good. We don't need your service anymore. I went to their website the other day and they're putting up AI pages. And what's going to happen now, and what called my attention to go look, is they dropped 16% in their traffic. And I was like, okay, what caused this? This is kind of weird. And sure enough, I've got 2 AI articles that were put up on that website. Okay. Google is going to penalize for it, although they say they're not going to. And I will explain if you do this right, they won't penalize you because you have to, again, use your own brain to get this out of you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do with my fake accounting business is I'm going to ask my chat window, I'm going to say, what services should a small business in Houston, and I'm saying in Houston specifically because I want to capture and count that Houston theme throughout it. Most 99% of all business I encounter have a local component of it, and it's an easy win within Google. So if I localize something, I'm more likely to get a ranking in the neighborhood in the area that I work in, rather than, I don't need something if I'm an accountant and a bookkeeper, yeah, maybe I can do somebody's books out of state, but the reality is I'm better off most people want to come in and talk to their accountant, so, that focuses on accounting. And fractional. Okay. So what it's gonna do, it's gonna now give me a list of what my core accounting services should be. Okay? And I need to remember that in everything I do, because basically it's giving me the services that people are gonna be looking to buy from me, the accountant. I can do this for my business, you two IT folks. I can do that for the both of you. Are you are you like an MSP, or you just, how are you doing it?
I just finished a contract. CIO.
Okay, okay. And how about you? You're an MSP. Okay. All right. So this now has given me what these all are. And what now it's doing is it's telling me what the core services are. And then it took the fractional CFO services and now has given me a breakout of what that should be and what services should be under that. Okay. Now, I'm a little old school and I have these big 17-inch pieces of paper that I keep. I literally have them and I pencil them all out on my desk. I literally, everybody that comes in, I'm now writing them on these big boards on these 7 by 17. You might have saw it the other day. I had a stack of them on my desk. All right. And I'm taking them and I'm formulating them. So we're just going to kind of remember what these all are. Okay. Now, I know what services, a bookkeeper, most of us understand what a bookkeeper does, which is why I picked this and not something out there. Okay. So I now know on my services page of my website what kind of words I should be using. The next question I'm going to ask this is, what are the best SEO keywords? And now you notice I didn't go back and explain. Let me see if it gives it. Okay. Yep, it did it right. So you see what it now has done? It has now given me a list of the things that I want to utilize in my pages. Now, there's other SEO principles that are tied to this that they're more technical SEO type ends of it. But I now have a list of all the keywords and the key terms that I should be focusing in on my page. All right. So I've now used AI to help me build a quick down and dirty keyword list for my fake accounting firm. Okay. The next thing it does is it gives me a long tail SEO keyword list. Now, the long tail is most people, so we understand, 50% of all searches are unique to the person making that search. So how I decide to search for something and how you decide to search for something may be two different ways. And in doing that, you come up with two different answers. The long tail is the unique type of searches where if I'm going to put in accounting service Houston, what does it say? Houston accounting services, that would be a 50% that most people would replace. Okay. These down here are more unique to people, individual people. In some ways, thematically, they're going to be asking similar questions for sure. Okay. Best fractional CFO for startups in Houston. Okay. That's an interesting, because that's really hyper detailed. If I was running this website, I'd back the camera back out and I would say, I would get rid of the word best. And then I would talk about fractional CFOs and what they are. And then I would have a second one that says, why does a startup need to consider a fractional CFO? And if anybody knows my company, if you ask me about CFO type things, I have no idea about any of it. My business partner, on the other hand, knows everything about that, but knows nothing about SEO. So it really kind of balances itself out because she takes care of the operations side of it and the money side of it. and I take care of this part of it. So it works out well. So I kind of have a CFO fractional situation going on in my company. But if I didn't, and I didn't have her, I would need somebody like this to help me because I have no understanding of finances whatsoever. I mean, I know how to pay a bill. I mean, I know how to run my house books, but when it comes to the company books, taxable, non-taxable, what's this and that, I have no idea. And I think it's something that is very frustrating for her because I don't understand. So if I come down this list, I have a list now, and basically what I have is the start of what I should be putting on my website, what I should be putting on as a blog post. Okay, so when I tell people that they need to post blogs on their website, that is the way that people interact with you. First of all, it sets the tone for whether somebody wants to do business with you. So again, I said people do business with who if they like you or not. So if you sound like an animatronic robot here speaking about the affordable accounting services for small businesses, you're going to, that's kind of how you're gonna, and chances are people aren't going to utilize that page in a way to help you. But if we come up with a friendly, happy way to say it and can focus on it, then we'll get there. I can do the same thing with your IT services. I don't think most business owners understand that they need IT services until they actually get hacked. So you really need an IT company before you have the hack, not after you get hacked. And then once you get hacked, then that's a whole nother story. Okay. So we're kind of understanding how I'm working out and working through the framework on all of this so far, right? Is everybody good with everything? Nobody has any questions? We're tracking what I'm doing? Yes.
Would you recommend to go on these 3 or 4 AI sites to get different ideas, especially when you talk about the, in terms of words, the lower.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. I'm staying in Chat GPT on the first framework because it does the framework the best. That's why I'm saying to do this. It's a good question you're asking in the sense of, is more, in this case, less is more, because you need to make sure that you're refining your stuff right. One of the things I will say is when I look at a small business website, like on something that nobody knows what's happened, that they just went and built a website in Wix themselves, 9 times out of 10, they're missing the structure. Okay. And without this structure, Google and these chat engines have no idea what your website's about. Okay. So this structure, basically it's old school outlining, if you will, like back in the day when we used to build outlines. But I'm having the outlines built by this. So you guys, I used to tell everybody, this is how we did the research and this is how we did this and this is how we did that. But if I start you in a place, a broke clock is right 2 times a day. So if I start you in a place where you at least can get the right keywords, you'll be in a much better space than if you tried to go figure it all out on your own. Yes, ma'am.
And from the restaurant, when you were looking at the website, you said that you could tell.
How did I know?
I didn't.
I see it a mile away. In fact, yeah. Okay, so some of it's tonality, some of it's sentence structure, and the thing that jumped out of the page at me was it said, and in conclusion, and it put a big box that said in conclusion, and then it went forward and made a conclusion. That is a flag, because what these chat engines are doing, they're taking. Back when I was in grammar school, let me say this a different way. They taught you how to write a prose article, and they said, make a thesis statement and say what that article's about, and then outline the article. And then at the very bottom, come up with a summary of all the things that you said that goes back to the original thesis statement. Okay, do we all at some point recognize? I notice the older folks are shaking their heads and the younger folks are like, I have no idea what this lady's talking about. Right? I'm noticing that. Okay. it was very formulaic, and I went to Catholic school, so the nuns would get me on me because I would start over here, I'd go over here, I'd come over here. I might make a good summary, and then I got a D on my paper. As it turns out, I'm a really good writer. It was just, I couldn't write in a formula. These chat engines have a formula. So if you understand what it outputs, the second you see it, you're like, and then there's certain words that when they see certain words, when Google sees certain words, it knows that it was written with a chat bot. And some of them are escaping me, but there's certain words. And the thing is that you can write, I'm gonna show you an article that I wrote with a chat bot here and what I did. But what ended up taking place is I had the chat engine kind of put it together for me. And then I said, okay, I don't like this. I do like this. I want to change this. I think this is more important. I ran it through again. It then proceeded to summarize it in a different way for me. And then Google gave me its input and I took Google's input and then said, now go put this in this article. So by the time it was done, it's a really good blend of me. The information in it is hyper unique because I kind of instructed. That's what I'd like business owners to do, is instruct the AI engine on how you want it outputted, not just take the output's word that it's correct. And I think that's the difference here. Because they go and say, hey, I think, and I used to hear this a lot. When I would teach down at the SBDC and we would have 70, 80 people in a room, and 80 people would stick their hand up and say they couldn't write a page of content, that they were embarrassed, that they didn't think it was a good page. So the second I said, put up a blog post, they were like, well, I can't write. I don't know what to do. And I used to say, Google doesn't care, just write it all out and it's not a big deal. But the thing is, now Google cares. So they look at these pages that are outputted and they think, wow, these are awesome. I could never write a page as good as this. But the reality is they're interspersed with so much, I want to say garbage, but I don't really mean it, that it's very apparent. There's no authenticity to it. They're not genuine. I think that's what, that now is the word, it becomes a lacking thing, is they're not genuine in what they do. So you can do AI, but when you do AI, you've got to do it in a way that you don't take away your own authenticity and take your own personality out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the balance that I'm trying to get everybody to do, because I keep seeing it repetitively. And every time I see it, I'm like, gosh, I want to just kind of call them on the phone and say, hey, if you would just change this, and this, it would be okay. It doesn't alleviate the fact that an SEO company probably needs to be behind it to drive it forward, because there's so many other components to it. But at least if the base content was right, and see, like George, you should excel at this because of your background. I've excelled at it because of my background, because it's how, when you used to sit down and you had to write an article, and you, like for the newspaper, you had to make sure you structured it, and you knew to structure it in an inverted pyramid. Okay, which is, the most important thing on top and then the least important thing at the bottom, right? That's an art form that seems to be lost in this world. Nobody understands how to do that, okay? But the reality is, if you can get the chat engine, if you can wheedle it down, you actually can make a page that doesn't have the most important thing at the bottom of the page, okay? It also helped format it some. So, we have our base topics. And now the next question that I'm going to ask it, because I remember I told you this is a chat, right? So because I'm doing this all in the same chat window, these things should be tied together. I'm going to ask it for 10 topics or blog posts. And I'm not going to give it anything more than that, and on purpose. Okay. You see, because this is a chat, it knew Houston-based small business accounting, fractional CFO services. Okay. These are designed to push. Go ahead.
So it's you.
And from the first all the way through, which is why I'm giving you this as a progressive step, and I'm saying to do it here. Okay, so top 7 signs your Houston small business needs a fractional CFO. Bookkeeping versus accounting, what's the difference? Benefits of hiring a part-time CFO, how Houston businesses can improve their cash flow in 30 days. 5 common bookkeeping mistakes. If you saw this out on the internet or on LinkedIn or on social media, the chances are these would catch your attention. Okay. And that's the whole point of this, if you will, because you're going to now put up well thought out. As far as to come up with these topics, I have no problem with pulling them out of a chat engine, the topics themselves. What I have a problem at is with, if I take this and say, write me a page on a Houston businesses, how a Houston business can improve cash flow in 30 days, it's going to spit it out and somebody goes and takes it and pastes it on the internet. And you just simply can't do that. Okay. So the next thing we're gonna do, and I'm gonna go down this, I'm gonna go through the bad mistakes first, sorta. All right, so I'm gonna tell it to write me a blog post on how businesses can improve a cash flow in 30 days. Right, so. Now it's gonna give me the answer to that. Let's see what it comes up with it. So it says, in this post, that right there needs to go away, because nobody writes in this post, I will explain how blah, blah, blah. Okay, we'll see. I don't know. I know I'm like kind of going, we'll see what this comes up with. The next thing is take out all these specialty characters, because the specialty characters are like blinking neons that say, hey, Google, I didn't write this myself. Who knows how to make a little check mark with their typewriter? Nobody. Okay. So that's like that one right out of the boxes. We know that's. All right. So why cash flow matters, 10 ways to improve it in 30 days. Well, didn't it say 7 up here? Okay, let's go with 10. It's right in it. Invoice follow-up, review and negotiate, blah, 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 blah. All right, so now what I'm going to do is go to the bottom and I am going to copy this. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to stick it right in Google. And I never know what I'm going to get, because sometimes I end up having to fix things even though it says it's okay.
I mean, go.
I didn't get there yet. I didn't get there yet. I did not get there yet. Nope, keep trying. I didn't get there yet. I'm about to get there, but I didn't get there yet. And I don't know.
Loading everything from the chat into the Google,
I'm only loading the article in.
just that 1,000.
Just the articles, yes. That's all I'm did was taking 1,000 words. And for some reason. Getting trouble here for some reason today. I don't know if we put an account boundary on this shouldn't be, oh, here it is. That's why it's having a problem, because it's not logged into the right account. Okay, so I am going to tell it web page content evaluation. I have different versions of this because I've been playing with it in different ways. So my prompt is, not that one. Let me go back here. With this text, let's try that one. Okay, I didn't give it much to go on the evaluation line, and I didn't do that on purpose, all right? Because I don't, the more you give it, the more specific it is in some ways. sometimes it actually gives me the wrong answer because I gave it too much information on the front side. All right, so the first thing it tells me is it took is put the article in, it comes down to the bottom and it starts to tell me what the strengths were. It's got a compelling topic, great job. It's strong, clear writing, actionable advice, Houston specific. So I did all of that. And then it says where we can improve. All right. So it's giving me SEO enhancements on here, and I don't necessarily want the SEO area of it yet. I want to look at the content enhancements. And it says, whenever possible, quantify the benefits for each tip. Instead of saying invoice faster, saying, add some description after it if it's applicable. It's saying add some brief case studies. Make it a little more skimmable, which I don't agree with. And it says expand on local opportunities. Now, me and my ability to evaluate this, I am not necessarily on board with what it evaluated this text and how it evaluated it. So I'm going to go back and put it into a different prompt because it went down a road that I didn't want it to go down. All right. Because I just said evaluate this text. I didn't give it anything more to go on. And that's why these prompts become very important on how you do them. Okay. But if you notice one thing that's here in this before I walk away from it, says be more specific on, contact us, add urgency. And then it says credibility and trust. Okay. That's a big situation because they're looking specifically for credibility and trust factors in a page. And if you don't have them, then now all of a sudden they're like saying, hey, wait up a second. This is not, we don't know who the page is attributed to. We don't know if it's a valuable person. Like when you look myself up, me, Beth Guide, as a human being, you find my affiliation with HCC. You find my affiliation with the Chambers of Commerce's. You find that I've worked with the SBDC, the Small Business Association, SCORE. There's no doubt in anybody's mind when I speak, I'm speaking from a position of authority. All right. I had to go through my world and make sure I created those relationships all these years. In 28 years, I had to create those relationships. So you have to have credibility. If you don't have the luxury to do that, like yesterday, I got a call from Fox, and they wanted me to come on and talk about this Apple data breach. Okay. And I was like, well, and I couldn't do it, but I have enough credibility that I have the media calling me to come and be a spokesperson for stuff. I didn't start my life that way. I started my business in my house with my 4 dogs being my security officer. And, that is a true story. And Sparity said we needed a fire marshal, a safety marshal. I said, I have 2 employees. They said, well, you need 4 positions filled. So I did. I put my 4 dogs in safety because one would steal socks. So I thought, socks and shoes, you're the safety person because I didn't trip over my shoe because you put it, I literally did this. I had like 3 big dogs and 1 little dog. So everybody had a job. The hospitality and reception committee was the little dog, so that's, but it's things you have to like. So as I'm saying what I'm saying, I mean, understand, I literally started in my living room with my first 4 employees officially on Insperity being my 4 dogs. Not that they got paychecks or anything, but they were the, huh? Yes, that's what they got. That's exactly it. So, and the Better Business Bureau, when we wanted a Better Business Bureau rating, we had them and they had to come out and they were like, but you're working in your house. And it was before, like, it was cool to do that. And they're like, we're like, okay, but look, we have a real office. And they're like, no, but you're working in your house. We don't know what to do with this. So why I'm saying this is I don't want any business person to be discouraged to say, well, I don't have those, but it's all about putting yourself out there and letting yourself become those experts. If there's a place that you can weigh your opinion in, do it. Okay, I mean, there's no reason that you can't, you can't become an expert. You told me you had a long career as a recruiter. So when we write your bio is going to talk about your long career as a recruiter. I saw some guy today at a breakfast that was at before I came here, and don't ask me what his name is because I don't remember. But his premise was that all businesses should be run as a sports team. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I was like, okay, so yeah, you're just like another business coach. And in my head, I'm having this conversation. As it turns out, he was the vice president at the Houston Zoo. He worked for the Houston Astros. He worked for the Houston Texans. Oh, he was the voice of the Texans for 19 years. So when you go to the stadium and they'd say JJ Watt, it was him, So, but my point of saying this to you is everybody starts somewhere and works their way up. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged just because I'm saying you have to have credibility. You just have to build that credibility. Okay. And it's just the simple fact that you're doing it and somebody makes a link that makes you credible. Okay. So just understand that this is not, I'm not telling you to do something that is impossible to do. Okay. But they're looking for credibility. And when you come here, they're saying client testimonials and company, a short brief that meant, talks about your company or why you can do this or what is your background, as to where you came up to do this. And if you have a case study and you don't have, Fox News, great, then just put a case study up. But it shows that you did business with somebody. It builds credibility. Google's looking for credibility because what they've determined is that when you start doing this AI stuff, the credibility goes away. So you have to be credible in all you say. Okay. And how do we get that? And where does that come from? And it's, case studies, things we've done, our world experience, why, how we got here. Okay. So then I start to look at what it's giving me. What I think is interesting in this one is it gave me specific edits. I've never actually seen it doing this. It says introduction in this fast-paced environment. It doesn't like that. It says add business to the invoice within 24 hours. It's kind of giving you, it's saying that this one is saying it wants the word faster involved, renegotiate vendor terms. It's saying what to add into each of the tip lines because it's not liking what it's saying. So it's telling me again that it's what that says is great article. It's still a little soft because it's AI. It doesn't say that because it can't make that determination. But in essence, my human brain says you're making these suggestions because you think it's AI. Okay. It's excellent. It provides valuable information. By implementing that, you should have a significant improvement in SEO, engagement, and lead generation potential. Focus on optimizing the keywords, adding visuals. By the way, just so everybody knows, ChatGPT can make you a picture. You can tell it what you want in the picture and it'll make you a picture. So I don't want to hear anybody tell me I have to spend 3 hours going and looking for a graphic anymore. It literally will make a picture. Okay. No, I mean, I had somebody tell me that yesterday. I forget where I was yesterday. Wherever I was, the guy said, oh, it was Monday. The guy said to me, I spend 4 and 5 hours looking for a picture of X. And I went click, 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 click. I said, you mean this? And that's what I ended up turning it around and saying on that. Okay, so that's all there as well. So although this is saying it's okay, I'm starting to, there's some things in there that is soft. You're going to have to evaluate them. I think it's saying it's good. I don't like the feedback it's giving me throughout the text of it all. So let me look at let me see if this one has it in here. This is not the right one. I've got several of them. As you can see, I've been working with this to try to. The other one that we did, because this is here, I said, take this text and utilize the Google Rater guidelines. Okay, so Google has about 156 pages of guidelines for content. And because this is Google, I can tell it to use those Rater guidelines. Now, if I was building the bot outside of it, I probably would have to give it the PDF of the Google guidelines to base it on so it could evaluate it against it. But as you notice, this one is, for my Italian tours guy. He, the Jubilee is this year, and it's like making pilgrimages and people are gone. This was before the Pope died. Now that the Pope died, even more people are going. Jubilee, yay. Okay, so we have this whole thing here, and I put this whole article in. And let me see, there's a thing, sorry. Okay, so it says, okay, I will evaluate this page based on the Google guidelines, all right? What is the purpose and what, is it helpful? Is it expertise? Is the content quality, presentation? So this is what it gives us. Overall, it's high quality. And now the original article was written by a human being, okay? It says it explains the purpose of the page about the Jubilee 2025. Does it have expertise? And this is something I was telling you to go do, right? It says the article demonstrates good understanding of the Jubilee and the history, the inclusion of biblical facts, blah, blah, blah. Authoritative, it needed to be looked at on the website itself because it says it can't gauge how authoritative something is because it doesn't have the website around it. So understand, you can do this exercise with a page that you put up on the website, or you can do it before. I'm saying do it before, get it all tuned up, post it, and then come back and evaluate it on the website. Okay, so I would add two-step process to that. Okay, then I'm gonna say, information is factual and aligned with good, so it's trustworthy. Okay, so it can see that it is. Now it comes down and it says the content, the page covers several important aspects. It's well written. The article is generally well written. I don't like the word generally because that means there's spots of it it doesn't like. So again, think about what you're reading in a critical way, not like, yay, it says it's well written. Okay, let's not do that. Okay, it's I come on, it says generally. What do you mean generally? That's kind of scary. It didn't find any inaccuracies about it. It's clear and easy to read, and then it says areas for improvement. So it says provide links to the official Vatican website or other of authoritative sources. I'm going to tell you, never, ever make a link to somebody else's website. Now, people will say to me, that's horrible. You should be helpful that way. All right. The reason I don't want to make a link to somebody else's website is because I take my authority and then I share it with them. I am not a share person. Okay. So just so you know, if you want to link to me because you think I'm an authority, I will be very appreciative, but you're not getting something reciprocally back from me because that hurts my website and I'm working too hard to build my website up. So no, even though this says to make a link to the Vatican, I may find something that talks about the Vatican, but I'm not making a link to the Vatican. I may say, according to the Vatican's website, I'm not linking to the Vatican. Okay. So I would add that in here. Okay.
We call it backlinks.
It is a backlink. Okay, so backlinks help drive all of this. And what they're using with backlinks is they're making backlinks. Backlinks are another word of I could use with a backlink is endorsements. Okay, so if and this is like a real world example. Many years ago, almost probably more than 10 now, I made a video for the Houston West Chamber of Commerce that explained why every small business owner should have a Chamber of Commerce membership. And I did it for them because anytime anybody was quitting, they were trying to tell people, well, you may get this, you may get that. I don't care if you never talk to another soul, if you go to an event, I don't care. You need that for Google. If for no other reason you belong to a Chamber of Commerce, you need that link from Google. Okay, so I made this video and I was like, you know what? It'd probably be helpful if I put up why I'm saying what I'm saying, and I put up an article that basically said why Google wants you to have a Google a chamber membership. And I put it up. I stuck it on the website and never really thought much about it. Passed the nose on my face, and I just did it. And I really did it for Houston West more so than I did for anything. Well, I was looking at my backlinks maybe about a year and a half later, and all of a sudden I have the Georgia Chamber of Commerce linking to me. I have one from Indiana. I've got one from Iowa. I've got Chamber of Commerce's from across America now validating my website that I'm now an authority, that there's enough of them now that I have to say, Google has to say we're an authority on this. In fact, I'm gonna end up putting a page on the website that talks about SEO for Chamber of Commerce's, for a sales perspective for us, like as a service. But I have chambers of commerce's linking to us because I put up this page that talk about those links validate my website and they support this behavior. If I didn't have those links, I would not have the authoritativeness that I have. So as much as I'm saying, yes, my affiliations, my vendors, that one article, I think there's 10 or 15 Chamber of Commerce's in the United States linking to that page because it makes the argument why don't cancel your membership if you go to an event and didn't get business out of it. You know, I mean, this is that discussion that we have, like, what do you get out of a Chamber of Commerce and what do you can you tie an ROI to it? Well, I might not always be able to tie an ROI to it, but I'll tell you, if I have 5 links from 5 different Chambers of Commerce, my website ranks higher. And if somebody finds me on Google, maybe they found me. If I pulled that link away, maybe they wouldn't have found me. So these are these things that are nebulous that are very hard to quantify, but their behavior, and that's what that page said. They make those links.
But you never link to. the chat.
No, I would not. I don't link to
But-
anybody. I link to nobody. I am antisocial.
Yeah, but them linking to you.
Helps me. Yeah. And I'll send them a Christmas card. Thank you for the backlink. Have a nice day. I'm not giving you a link. I want everybody to have that policy here in the room. Because although there are appropriate times to do it, I have my accountant guy, I will at times link to the IRS website. I know when it's the right time to do it and when it's not the right time to do that. To try to get you guys to get a feel for that is, so the best thing I can tell you is just don't do it. Because it's gonna hurt you in the long run. All right, because you don't know when's the right time to do it, when's the wrong time to do it. So just don't do it. That's the best way. And oh, by the way, I don't do it. Okay, it's very, very rare. And now what I will say is I say that I have our portfolio and it does link to the people's website, but I have it so encapsulated that I'm not hurting myself. Again, you guys don't know how to do that. It starts to get into the really nitty gritty of it all. The best thing I can tell you is not to do it. Okay, so although it's telling me to link to the Vatican, that's not happening. Okay, so now I have it against Google Writers Guidelines. Let me see where I have another version of this. And I thought this was interesting to the point that I had to send it back to the end user. I sent it back to the original writer on it. Let me. No, it's not. Yeah, maybe it's this one. Hold on. This one, it did mine. And I'm going to talk about mine here in a second. Because oh, here it is. Okay, this is what I'm looking for. Okay. So I put it in this and my instructions were just evaluate this text. And this one, it comes in, it says, let me see where the improvements are. Is this the right one? Basically, it told me to go back and ask. All right, here it is. So it came back with what we missed in the content on that Jubilee and what it felt it needed to have added. That's why I like this tool, because it was not something that I would have thought of on my own. And I like when people give me answers that I would not have gotten to, and this gave it to me. What it said is it didn't like the original introduction. It says the introductions is good, but it could be more captivating. Start with a hook that grabs the reader's attention. For example, and it says Jubilee of 2025 is a once in a generational lifetime for Catholics. Are you ready to have a life-changing experience? it says in the section on preparing a pilgrimage, provide practical advice on how to prepare for a pilgrimage. I was like, that's brilliant. I wouldn't have thought of that. The next one says, add a section on what to expect in Rome. And it says, describe what pilgrims can experience in Rome in the Jubilee. And then the last one, which I thought was the most telling, because I'm going to tell you how Beth Guide read it, as well as what this says. It says, explain the benefits of using your travel agency. Clearly articulate the benefits of using your agency to plan a Jubilee to Rome. Highlight your expertise in planning religious travel and your knowledge of Rome and your ability to handle logistical situations. Now, I don't know. I think this is a second run of this, because the first run said, highlight that somewhere in the original article it mentioned that the owner of this company is Italian by birth. And they actually asked the follow-up question that says, if you're Italian and you own this agency, explain what extra that brings to the table. And if you notice, we're back to, how do I add the personality back to the article? What this does is it gives a great basis for what you're missing, what personality points, where they view it as thin, and how they need to process it. Okay. And then it says the article is a solid foundation, is a solid foundation for attracting it. By implementing the suggestions above, you can improve the SEO value of it. And then if I come down, I did it again. Let me see if it says it where it says it again. So the next time I did it, I sent it back to the writer and I had them put in the next thing they came back with. And I think this is brilliant because this makes it useful. It says actionable travel information. Does my audience need a visa? And if so, for how long? When's the best time to travel to this event? What are some of the accommodations that are in the area and what should we consider? How does a pilgrim get around Rome? What are the most convenient and affordable options? Give some realistic estimates of cost. Showcase your expertise and give a sample itinerary. And then the why you. What specific context do you have in Rome? How do you ensure that your tours are respectful? How do you have experiences planning a trip? Does everybody understand that if I start to add this back to this page, I'm now stopping this page from being an AI generated page or a page that was, I'm going to use the word milquetoast. Okay. I'm adding things back to it that now make it more hospitable to Google. Okay. And the important thing is we're doing this AI stuff. So now I have a list of suggestions and now I'm going, now how am I going to implement it? Right. So when I did mine, I wrote the original article and then I took it and I put it into this and it gave me a list of suggestions. This is where Claude comes in. Okay, so let me open my side member. By the way, I did a grammar correction. I said, please correct this page for grammar, and it took fix my grammar for me. So I can even do that. Okay. All right, so let's see. Trying to find it. Okay. All right, so here's my one I did. So what I did was I took this article that I wrote that was a very long article, okay? It started as 3,600 words. It's now up to 5,725 words, okay? Which you think, who's gonna read that? That's what you would think, right? No, I'll show you. So let me get the right one here. Oh, so I started out with a video and I did, and this is a suggestion for everybody if you wanted to write stuff. So what I did was, I sat down with the problem. So my trips to Italy guy, he decided he was going to go rogue for 6 months. And when he did, he broke his whole website. So he took it from 25,000 users a month down to 1,000. All right. And as anybody knows, if you're getting to 25,000 people a month through Google, they're helping sustain your business. And if you go to 1,000, they're not helping you sustain your business because you now had the bottom fall out. So he came back to me and said, hey, I need you to fix this. Do you think you can fix this? And I started to look at it and I was like, I can't believe how bad a job was done on this website. So what I did was I sat down and I got this little thing out and I put it on at my desk and I started talking to it. And I'll tell you what else you can do. You can do it with Zoom. As you notice, I don't know if you see my video up there. It's because I'm actually recording this because it'll become the podcast. All right. So I sat down on my patio on a Saturday morning and I said, okay, I am going to make a video and I'm going to talk through all the problems on this website, what they are, how they got there, what's involved, what happened. And it was like an hour talk, just like I'm sitting here talking to you guys today. So it was like an hour talk. I then took and put it on YouTube. And does anybody know what happens when you put it on YouTube? YouTube now makes a transcript for you. So I then told it, take the transcript and now write me a blog post based on that. Now, if I do that, what have I accomplished by having AI write that blog post? Based on a video of me talking. Intrinsically, it is unique. It's not bringing in outside information because it's my own transcript. I'm saying, take this transcript of what I'm talking about and now write an article about it. I don't have the trappings of a traditional AI problem because that information doesn't exist anywhere else but in my video. Does everybody understand how I did that? So those of you that still have writer phobia, whatever, get your little phone out and just start. Okay, so if I told you to do this in 2019, you'd all tell me you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I can't talk to my computer. I have stage fright of talking to my computer, right? Okay. Now, after 5 years of Zoom and meetings and crazy, it's no problem anymore it's like whether somebody's, for me, one of the best things that happened was COVID in this regard. I was trying to figure out how to tape classes. I was trying to figure out how to put them up. What did I want to do? It forced us to do that. In fact, the one at HCC is still virtual. I mean, we still get 170, 250, whatever the heck we have sign up for this thing every single week, every single month. We still have it. So I'm able to take that now. And before AI, because relatively ChatGPT has only been on the scene for probably 2 years. It's been in process for a while, but they hit the ground running and kind of caught the whole industry by surprise. Before AI, I would have to go, I'd have to write the article. I'd have to figure out how to get a transcript. I'd have to say, can somebody write me an article based on the transcript? It got to be this big rigmarole and it was a 5-hour time sink. Now with this, I can have my article done in 15 minutes based after the video. So like this class, even as I'm talking through all of this, I will take the transcript of this class. I will tell it to write me an article. I'll put the video with it. Bada bing, bada boom, I'm done. Okay. It's beautiful because it gives the authority. It has the video for the video people. It has the podcast for the podcast people because the audio is matriculated into a podcast. And it's got written for those of us that really don't want to watch a 2-hour video. Just give me the high points and I can scan down the page. Okay. So I'm utilizing AI to create a blog post based on original content. When I said I really can't do original content, but I really can if I give it a feed source that's original. The problem that I see is that the small business owners are going out on the internet and they're just putting in a thing and saying, hey, write me a page. And it's somebody else's opinion in that page and it's somebody else's thought process in that page. But if I take my own thought process in a video, if I can't get there on my own, I can do it through a video. I mean, even a 10-minute video would be enough that you could just, you two IT folks, if I said to you, give me 5 ways to avoid having your computer being broken into, could you talk through 5 ways to have that happen? Yeah, okay. That's a post for your website, but if you talk to me or you talk to your computer about it, it's your opinion of what those 5 are. It's not Microsoft's opinion of what those 5 are. And that's really the salient and important part about this per se, because that is what's needed to be able to make the information unique. So the first thing I did was I took the video and I had it make it into a blog post for me. Okay, so this is the 1-hour video, and it said, and it came out and it said, it gave me the issues based on what was presented in that video. So I took it and I told it I wanted it, I gave it a 1,000 word, and that wasn't, it really didn't flesh it out enough. So then I told it I wanted a 2,000 word blog post. So then it proceeded to come in and it gave me 2,000 words. And then I asked it to give me an FAQ. Anybody know why I asked it to give me an FAQ? Do you know why? You're shaking your head yes. Do you know why huh? Well, yes, but the thing is, by doing it this way, I'm feeding the ask engines. So I'm feeding ChatGPT, I'm feeding these entities with these FAQs because I'm formulating it in a question and I'm answering the question. I'm asking a question. So when Google comes across that it needs to scrape, what it does is it finds the answer in those FAQs. So I actually asked it to put an FAQ at the bottom for me on what I had to do.
So sometimes maybe when somebody search for something on Google, it might see your.
Well, it
question
does. So
answered.
let me show you. It's not gonna be me, but I'll give you this one here. Let me show you what happens as we're doing this. Okay, so I put in the word Torlon. It's a high heat plastic that is in things like, it used to be in the space shuttle, now it's in SpaceX and that kind of stuff, right? The very first answer is pulled off a website that we wrote the answer to, that we wrote the page on. So it is literally using our data to formulate this answer. And if I tell it to show me more, you see, it gives you the links of where it's getting these from, and it gives you the links over here. You can see that we're the #1 source. So I now have a #1 listing in the AI section of Google for my client. To put this in perspective, the client's traffic has more than doubled in the last 6 months. Okay, their sales has too, but the traffic itself has more than doubled because I have so many of these sitting in that top spot based on how those pages are written. Okay, so there is a real benefit to writing these pages this way. The other one I'm going to give you is Perplexity. We didn't talk about this one yet, and I'm not done with Claude, just for all you Claude people that are waiting. Everybody's waiting to hear about Claude. Okay, so if I go to Perplexity, this is a popular question. What?
Each one you have a paid account.
Yeah, on this, yes, I have a paid account for each one of them, yeah. Let me see if this still works. Yep. Okay, so my question is to this, what happens if my accountant dies? You would never think of that to be a real question, but it's a real question. If I look over here, I have IRS, and Evident Pros. My customer's Evident Pros. He's getting traffic off that query and people who have lost their. So let me tell you something about accountants, okay? They're all old. It's not an ageist statement. They are physically all old. And the best part of it is nobody went to school to learn how to be an accountant. So there's this huge gap in the education system. There's nobody to replace the old accountant. So people are in full out panic. They don't know what to do when their accountant dies because they can't find a new one. They're not, because the next one you go to, he also is 100 years old. All right, so it's not a. That's true. It's a true statement.
Yeah.
But, all right, you got it? So with that said, okay, it took our page. So we are literally surrounded by the IRS, Reddit, and us. We are the predominant source. So there is a definite thing if you do this to make this work. Okay, so this is why I'm saying this. Okay, so what I did with this is I put it in Claude. It gave me some answers. It gave me more answers, and I went back to Google, and I asked Google. Let me see if it's in this document. It might be another one.
So what did you say about perplexity? Or
Huh?
Perplexity? What was the?
But Perplexity, I'm just showing, it's another research tool. Perplexity is gonna come up and give Google a real run for its money. I'm gonna tell you that much right now. That's my prediction. So what I did then is I took my original article and I took the feedback that Google gave me and I wrote my prompt that says, take the Word doc, which was my original article, and implement the following changes, which were the changes that Google gave me in that other thing.
Okay.
And what it did is it spit out another page that took all the things that I was missing the first time and added it in and made a secondary page. Okay, so now I have a page of content that Google says is going to be way more, it's going to be way better than what I had originally. So I took it, I did it a third time, and when I did it the third time, it jumped. And if I say jump the shark, we all know it just went to no good, right? So it became an unusable after the third time. So you can't just do this process in perpetuity. You kind of got to know when to stop, because by the time it was done, it took my article on how to hire a webmaster and turned it into how to do SEO. It literally changed the entire article to be an entirely different topic than my original page. So you really have to watch what you do with it, because if you do it kind of too many times, what ends up happening is it can jumble it all up and make it not be the article that you wanted it to be. And you should have an idea in your head when you start what you want it to look like on the front side, so you know that you got back out of it the right page on the back side. So I went through it. I went and looked at everything. I made some changes to it, and then I went and posted it on the internet. So let's go and say where I posted it now. So hold on a minute. I actually stuck it here, and I put a comprehensive guide. I'll tell you something else I cheated on. This was actually really beautiful. I rolled up my table of contents. Look how long the table of contents is on this and how many bullet points there are. So it's got a pretty deep table of contents on it of what's on this thing. All right. This is the original paragraph that I started with. So this is the original video. Okay. That started with me on my back patio, the 1 hour video. I actually took it and added it to the post. I'm going to tell you why I'm adding video in a second, because it's going to offset stuff. Okay. But how do you? And I wrote a paragraph about it. I put the video up. And then I decided I needed to define what was a web designer, what's a webmaster, and what's a web developer, because they're really kind of three different things, which I think most people don't know that. So I put that in there, put a call to action so that people can think about maybe contacting us. And then started into what I needed to put there. By the time I got to the bottom, I now have 7 more videos I had to make to support this and support some of the things that Google is the one, actually Claude was the one, when I told it to involve what Google gave me as feedback, it actually wrote these red flags and gave me these red flag statements to put underneath it. Again, it's my video, so I explain what it is. So the content that they're using, but they took my language and put that red flag moniker there with it. And I thought that was a good touch because you can kind of scan down them without looking at the videos to do all of this.
Is it actually help Google Wise? All of them are red flag.
Google, no, it doesn't, it's not the language of it. It's not, I just thought it was a nice touch. Google themselves suggested to explain why each of these were a problem. Like after you put your explanation text, explain what the highlight is. It said something like put text in there that sort of explained it. So what Claude did is it called them red flags and put that back in there like that. Okay, so Claude is more friendly, whereas ChatGPT, I will tell you, it's more sterile. It gives me better answers. A lot of the time, what I find myself doing is writing the initial in ChatGPT, posting it, running it through Claude, running it through Google, and then having Claude make the corrections, and then me going through and deciding what I really want to keep and what I don't want to keep. Because again, I'm the expert. I actually know what I want to say. But if I had to type this all out, it would, if I had to write a 5,700 word page, it would take me, months to do that. So, this was the better way to do this.
And you
Okay.
say you posted it on your website.
It's on the
Then-
website.
then-
It's there.
then let it-
So what I did is once I posted it, I then took it back and I put it back in Google. Where's the right place? Where's the right
And
Google
why
place?
not post it?
I did it before, and then I did it first. I wrote it, I did it, I put it in Google. Google made the suggestions. I had AI implement the suggestions.
And then you post.
Then I posted it, and then I went back and had Google score it again, just to make sure that there was nothing. And what it told me is it wanted a section on what is the financial impact of hiring the wrong webmaster, which I thought that was a good piece to add. And then it also talked about internet security and hiring the wrong webmaster, which these are things like from my company, I have a full-time IT guy and a programming guy that he solves those problems. So we're a little spoiled and I don't think about but then if I think about it, I have web designers that we are the provider for that he's forever fixing their stuff because they don't know how to fix it. So it's a valid point. So I ended up having to add it. If I go all the way down to the bottom, 6 and 7 down here. By the way, I pulled the reviews in because it said add credibility, add your reviews. So I pulled the reviews in. I added a section on website security. I added a section on financial impact. And then I put my FAQs and came up with, and you notice I put graphics on each one of these. I just didn't just throw it all up there without graphics. It's all, Google says I need more graphics. They say they actually want more white space on this page than what it has, but I don't know that I actually can do it because I think what really needs to happen now is this needs to be broken into 2 pages. And I need to do one on SEO and one on web design and split it almost into 2 topics and leave this as the main page and then put 2 subpages underneath it because of what it is. So I probably am going to end up doing one on a guide of how to hire an SEO company and one on how to do a webmaster specifically, whereas this is a massive list over everything you need. The other thing I did, and I did this on purpose, is I put a printable checklist on the side, and I used ChatGPT to code this for me too, because it's a pain in the neck to do it. I took off all the decorations. They can just print this exactly as it is and just print this screen. And they now have a printable article printable checklist that they can go ask people questions and see what's going on. So I thought that was, I'm thinking links, that people are going to make links to this checklist page is what I think is going to happen. So I'm going to end up with authoritative backlinks coming to this checklist just because I put this checklist. And that's the way you got to kind of think about when I structured it. I took all the points and I told the chat engine, write me a bulleted list of everything I said to do. And this is what it spit out on that 1-hour video. All right. So this is where I'm saying to you that if you're comprehensive in your thought process and you think through it, the tools are there to do it. You go from ChatGPT that structures it. You can write it with ChatGPT. you might want to make some changes to it. Then run it through Google and see what you're missing. And I'm saying run it through Google to see what you're missing because that's really who the arbiter of is this a good page or is this a bad page? That's who the arbiter is of it. And then once I do that, I decide how to implement the changes. I put it back and then I run it again. And I'm going to run this again because I haven't run this one yet as a final copy. So there's multiple steps along the way with this. But the important thing is that I have a page of content now that I can put on my website and I actually know it's going to do well. It took me longer to post this page than it took me to write the page. Okay. Usually it takes me no time to post a page. It's the writing that's the part of the problem. But in this particular case, it took me longer to post this page than it did to write the page. I mean, it took me almost 7 hours to put this page together because there was so much information with it. And to create all the videos, because I felt like the topic had to have videos to go along with it, because nobody was still going to understand what I was saying. Hang on a minute. For some reason, this computer's logged into the wrong account. So you see, I have one here.
That's a list of prompts.
That I've created based on what I thought they needed to be. It says, and I was vague in some and in others. So like I didn't run this page through this one yet. So this will be a fair, all right, evaluate this page using the Google guidelines, right? So I'm going to come here. Tell it here. And I'm going to tell it to go and let's see what it comes up with. Because I didn't rate it up against the Google guidelines yet, and I probably needed to. All right, so you see how short it is? Because it's a short answer, it gave me back. It tells me that I kind of did pretty good. The longer it is, the worse I know it is, right? Okay, so I will evaluate this page, the purpose of the page. It gives me the headline. What is the purpose? Vertical Web appears to be a web and development company. They suggest possesses expertise in this field. The content demonstrates knowledge. You see, it's already starting to say that it's a valid piece of Vertical Web as a company offers divine services, has a degree of authoritativeness on the topic. The site itself seems to have been around for a while, which also seems to add to that. That goes back to something else I'm going to tell everybody. I'm going to say this again. Old domains. If you have an old domain or you can get your hands on an old domain, you're always going to be in a lot better shape than if you go buy a brand new one. All right. The site has a professional design, clear, blah, blah. And it says the content is well organized. It covers a variety of topics. The advice seems to sound general and aligns with the industry's best practices. The website is modern and professional. The page is easy to navigate. The page is likely to be helpful for users who are researching how to hire somebody. And based on Google, I would rate this page as high quality. So boom, I did what I needed to do from that standpoint. If I just said to evaluate it from an SEO standpoint, I think it scored an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. So the fact of the matter is now, how long is it going to take to get traffic to this page? I don't know. And I think that's going to be the next aspect of how successful is this page, is how much traffic did I get to it? If I get traffic to it and the traffic picks up to it, now let me tell you a few other things I did. You notice I have YouTube videos on there? What's going to happen is people are going to drive the YouTube counts up and help the YouTube channel go up. So I'll get more subscribers over there. So I've tied every aspect to this. And I started with AI. AI wrote the article, AI's processed the article, AI's churned the article out for me, but I never lost my uniqueness because of how I processed this. And that's the piece of this, that if you guys walk away with nothing else in your head, it should be, okay, if I use AI, am I still in that page? And I can show you examples. In fact, I'm working with my writing department now because we've always told them to write general and broad. That I've been taking some of their stuff and running it through. And some of it's real good and some of it says this is a great starting spot, but it's pretty thin. And when it says it's a great starting spot, it says, do not put that article on the internet because what it's telling you, it doesn't say that. I'm telling you that. Because a starting spot says that's a thin page of content. So there's euphemisms built into the output that tell me what I'm looking at. So if it says it's a good start, it means that I have not captured the essence of what that page should be. But I think it's a game changer when I can utilize Google's own brain to evaluate a page of content. If I use Google themselves to evaluate it and then fix what's behind it. Now, what I will say is people that want to churn out pages that just want to put a topic in, have the page, put it out and paste it up. That's not this. And although it had probably saved me 30 to 40 hours on this page that I've done, I had to do it that way because if I didn't do it that way, I would not have gotten the results that I wanted off of it. And in fact, frankly, I just want to go see if I want to go over here just a second. All right, so this has only been up for a week with those there. So some of them have more views than others of them. But I think what's going to happen that there's going to be more people are going to, as they watch that page and that page comes up higher, we're going to end up with more and more of these videos, them going up just simply because there's more exposure to them because of that page. So does everybody understand the steps that I've given you today? Is everybody clear on the steps I'm giving you today? Does anybody have questions? Or does anybody need specific suggestions on their own stuff? Then my job here is done today. All right. See, you stayed the whole time, mister. I'm leaving at 11. Other door. That one's locked, I think. So, all right, well, if we're good, then I'm done for today. I think I've said everything I wanted to say about the subject. You guys have all been very quiet, so I don't know if that meant I did a good job or you're all sleeping somewhere. So like you typical fire hose around here. I knew one was out there somewhere. Go ahead. Yes, I did.
Did you like it? Did it do a good job?
Here, let me show you what I did. One of my, huh? It was a function inside of Elementor. Hold on, let's see if it comes up. All right, so what I did is I had this lady send me a document that told me what her platform was, what she wanted to run on, what images she wanted. And there is in Astra Theme, there is a AI engine that if you feed it the content, it'll spit out a page. Now, I wasn't worried about ranking it from an SEO standpoint because it was only up for 4 weeks while she was running for Board of Trustees. But overall, I don't think this page looks bad. It found the artwork for me. It knew it based on what she gave me. It knew it was the right stuff.
Did she win?
Yes,
Okay.
That's all it gets.
yes.
When AI finds your picture, you ask for a picture, is it free or is it from one of those pages you have to pay for?
No, it's free because it's randomly generated. Now, I have one, like ChatGPT's ones are freeze, huh?
No.
They randomly generate a picture. Yes. Here. Yes, it will randomly generate a photograph. Hold on.
I believe that.
See what it does. I just told it basically to make boats at a yacht club. And then I'm going to add some chairs in. after I get the image. So yeah, it does all this for you. It's gonna make a picture. Now, Adobe has one called Firefly and it's credit based. I don't think it actually does good of a job. I think this one's doing a much better job. Look at that. Okay, now. Now let's see what we get. We did get a three-legged table at one point, so do check to make sure that it's okay. Because we did, I did this, because they were, one of my. Huh? Yeah, I didn't ask for a three-leg table. It gave me a three-leg, and because one of my staff was saying, well, where am I supposed to find a picture of these chairs by a boat? I'm like, well, watch. And then when we made it, it ended up being only a three-legged table. So it does do, here, look, I did this the other day for the people too. I have an image library of all the things that I've dug up here too. I even did small business owner at one point. So, no, that's not me when I was younger. Good God, no. All right, where's,
Someone was attacking something silly like create a sparkly unicorn with a pink one. You know, and it does silly stuff. Like the silly stuff is a little.
yeah, I ended up having to go ahead and go in there and I don't even know where my picture's gonna be now, dang it. See if it's here.
Does Google develop pictures too? Great pictures?
I'm sure it does. I haven't found it yet, but I'm sure it does somewhere. Actually, let me say it differently. I haven't looked for it. I've been just using these.
You heard of Gemini?
That's Google.
That's, yeah,
Yeah,
okay, I thought that was a new AI.
no, it's Google. That's what Google named its AI.
Yeah,
That's its name is Gemini.
and Perplexity, that's another AI.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with Google. That's an AI search engine.
Right, right.
So, okay. We're good. If we're good, I'm good. If nobody has any more questions, I'm sure if you thought about it, you'll have more, but that's everything. Close this off. Next class. That's a wrap for this week's Internet Marketing Clinic. We'll see you next week. Thank you.